All right. Can everybody hear us? Raise your hand if you can hear us. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually hearing myself talk right now. But thank you guys for joining us. We have Matt Hemingway, which is a former Olympian, and he's here to tell you what it takes to be an Olympian and kind of his story, and then he's going to answer some of your questions. So hope you guys have those ready. I'm just going to give the floor to Matt, and hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, John. It's a real privilege to meet with you guys. John had approached me a little while ago and said, hey, you know what would be fun is if we could hang out with some students and tell them a little bit about what it takes to be an Olympian. So I'm going to start off and tell you just a little bit about my experience growing up and becoming an Olympian. It was a long journey. So why don't we get started? So the first thing is, who am I? Well, in the year 2004, I won an Olympic medal, which you can hopefully see right here. I brought it for you guys to look at in the Athens Olympics. I'm just a normal guy who happens to be able to be good at jumping over stuff. That's kind of how I think about it. I know there'll be a question about this later, so I'm going to go ahead and deal with it. It's, yes, I can dunk a basketball. In case you have any questions about that, I can do that. Let's see, what else? If this gives you some context about what it takes to win an Olympic medal, in the history of the Olympics, in the modern Olympics, there have only been 13 Americans that have ever won a silver medal. And there have only been 35 Americans that have ever won a medal in the high jump at all. So there's a whole lot of people on the planet. And I have been very fortunate and was given the crazy gift of being able to jump over stuff. I trained really hard for it and had a great day at the office, so to speak, in my, I guess as I kind of think about it. The high jump map was my office. Okay, so the next thing is, how many of you guys know what the high jump is? I'm going to ask you to raise your hand so that I can see you if you know what the high jump is. Anybody else back here? Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm gonna share a video with you. Thanks, John. I'm glad you figured it out.
Just want to get in there.
Video. One of the things that we want to do here today is show you some of the cool things that we can do with Google+. So I'm going to share a video. I'm going to pull it up off YouTube. You won't recognize me right away, and it's probably because something happened to my hair as I got older. I'm just kidding. So let me see. Tell me, can you guys see this? If you can't, I'm going to try to push play here. That's not me. They're not able to see it just yet.
Yeah, I believe they're going to need to get the YouTube app.
Okay.
Okay, so
Can you see the video at all? You have to hit the YouTube app.
tell them to click the YouTube app at the top or go to Add App.
So click at the very top. You'll see a thing that says YouTube. It's a tab, and click on that, and then I'll be able to show you the video.
I can see the Delaware Ridge School, and their projector is still.
Can you see any of the high jump?
Here, 1 second. All right, we're going to give all of you guys a moment to get that in order. So you should just click Add App at the top, and then you could click YouTube.
If you can't do that, I will be posting the URL for you to see on my Google Plus account.
I know Delaware Ridge is looking for it, so yeah, let's go ahead and move on, and he'll post that later.
Yeah, we're going to move on, and then I'll post some of this stuff on my Google Plus account, and if we have time at the end, we'll give it another shot. Okay. So, here we go. Let me see. one more thing here. Okay, so let me give you some perspective about the high jump. The high jump is, can everybody hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me, because I can't tell. Okay, good. So some perspective. At the Olympic Games, the video that I'm going to show you, the highest I've ever jumped is about 7 feet 10 inches. Okay? That's pretty high. At the Olympic Games, I jumped 7, 8 1/4, which is, about 4 inches just below what your standard ceiling is in a house. Or for other perspective, how many of you guys, particularly high school, junior high, you know who Blake Griffin is? Raise your hand if you know who Blake Griffin is, a basketball player. Okay? That's about jumping a foot over Blake Griffin's head. Okay? So that's pretty high up there. When I was training full-time, I could actually put my arm about this high up on a basketball rim. So, anyway, there's some perspective for you. So my journey to the Olympics was a long one. I went to the Olympics when I was almost 32 years old, but the beginnings of my dream were very humble. I grew up in a very small town in the mountains of Colorado, and I identified that there was one thing that I was really good at, and that was jumping. I was a tall, skinny kid, and growing up, a lot of people made fun of me because I was just a little bit goofy. In fact, I had nicknames like Stick and Frog Legs. Anybody had a nickname like that growing up? Raise your hand. Okay, I see the elementary school. The high school kids or the junior high kids are too cool to raise their hands. So we all know the truth here. Okay, we've all been in that spot. But I had this crazy dream of going to the Olympics, and I realized that I was pretty good at jumping, and so I learned everything I could about the high jump. I collected articles. There was a guy named Javier Sotomayor who actually holds the world record, and he jumped 2 meters 45, which is just a little bit over 8 feet, 8 feet a half inch. And there was another American by the name of Hollis Conway, and he jumped 7, 10 and a half, and I learned everything I could learn about those guys. And I trained, and I went to some camps over the summer, and I learned everything I could. And I ended up my senior year, I jumped 7 feet 4 inches in high school. And that was a state record, and was the highest jump in the United States. When I went on to college, I thought, man, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be awesome. And everybody's going to love, having me on their team. And then I ended up going to a school called the University of Arkansas. Anybody heard of the Razorbacks? Raise your hands. Razorbacks, all right. So I went to Arkansas, and I found out that they had the best team in the country. They were by far the best team out there. And when I got there, the best way to put it is that I got my butt kicked a lot. There were a lot of other people on that team that were really, really good. But no matter, I figured that if I wanted to be a champion, I was going to have to learn to compete with the champions all along the way. There were some good years, there were some tough years. And I wrapped up my collegiate seasons having earned All-American honors 5 times. I was on numerous national championship teams, and then was an alternate for the 1996 Olympic team. Was able to work with a lot of great coaches, great athletes, traveled all throughout the United States. But I didn't make the team when I thought that I would in 1996. In the year 2000, or in a few years after that, I decided to take a break from the sport, and I wasn't really sure that I would ever compete again. I returned back home to Colorado and did some things. I got married, and I worked as a whitewater river guide. Has anybody been whitewater rafting? Raise your hands if you've been whitewater rafting. Who's scared to go whitewater rafting? I want to see what the junior high kids are going to say. Okay, because I can't see anything they're doing. Okay, so I grew up in the mountains at my home was about 9,000 feet up in the mountains. It was hard to breathe because there's just no oxygen up there. But after I'd been working for about a year, I decided that I was going to try to high jump again. And this is a good indicator for you guys if you ever are thinking about becoming a high jumper. Was I figured I was in good shape to jump because I could dunk a basketball with 2 hands and jumping from the free throw line. Okay? 2-hand dunk from the free throw line. So if you guys can do that, you're probably going to be good high jumpers. Okay? That's a good barometer for you. So I returned to high jumping, and within really cool, except for when the time came for me to make our Olympic team in 2000, I didn't actually make the team. Because in our system, you have to jump in the top 3 on the day of the Olympic trials. So I had a bad day at the office, not a good one, and I didn't make the team, even though I had the highest jump in the world. That was the year that I jumped 7, 9 3/4, and that record still stands today as a U.S. Indoor Championship record. 7, 9 3/4, 2 meters 38. After that, I ended up getting hurt the next year playing a little bit of basketball, and then decided to come back to it in 2002. Ended up second in the United States at our U.S. Championships. The year after that, I made a World Championship team. I really had to kind of refocus and say, this is my last go-around to become an Olympian. And remember, all of this started with this dream that really started at about junior high or high school, where I said, you know what, I want to go do something big. I've got this crazy gift and skill. So I started working really hard on that. As I moved through to 2004, I finally made the Olympic team. I was the oldest guy in the field, but I had worked really hard. I had dedicated my life to it. I had, my diet, my lifting, all of the things that you need to do to accomplish a big goal like becoming an Olympian. So I want to talk a little bit now about being an Olympian. But before I do that, how many of you guys have ever had the dream of going to the Olympics, either to watch them live or to be in the Olympics? Who's dreamed that? Okay. All right, we got the junior high kids, we got the high school kids, or the elementary school, but the junior high kids, I'm not seeing you guys. You should dream bigger, right? This phase of life will soon be over. You got to make great memories while you're there. So I want to talk about being an Olympian. The first thing is that being an Olympian, to be able to represent your country and represent your nation, is a huge honor. There are so few people on the planet that get to do such a thing. So I took it as just an honor to be able to go to the games and to be a part of such an amazing event. The other thing that I think about when being an Olympian is it's this huge payoff for a lifetime of training. I started high jumping when I was in junior high, so 7th grade, about that time. And by the time I made it to the Olympics, I was almost 31. So almost 20 years of training, and it finally came true. My dream finally came true. It was a lot of hard work. There was a lot of failure along the way. And I'll tell you this honestly, I failed more than I won. Most of the time, I did not win competitions, but I just kept after it. So there was this huge payoff. I think about the Olympics too, it doesn't matter what country you're from, it doesn't matter where you go, if you can say you're an Olympian, or if you talk about the Olympics, if you've been able to participate in it, you know that it is the greatest sporting event on the planet. You'll see this summer as you see Olympians from all over the world, and you see it on TV. All you're going to hear about is London 2012, London 2012. You're going to see it on the news. Whenever the Olympics is on, that's all that's going to be on TV practically. It is a phenomenal and amazing experience to see people from all nations, races, religions come together and compete on the field. The thing that also I think about being an Olympian is the ability to meet amazing individuals that are like-minded, that have given an entire lifetime to accomplish their goals. When you meet someone else that has done something like that, there is an immediate camaraderie and appreciation for their efforts, regardless of what it is. And it doesn't matter if they're an Olympian for badminton, or if they're an Olympian for track and field, or if they're an Olympian for basketball. There is an appreciation for that person and the skills that they have. So just a little history here on the Olympics that I want to kind of talk about as well. The Olympics, the motto for the Olympics, if translated into English, is faster, higher, stronger. So there's a little history for you. The Olympics, we're always pushing the limit of whatever event that it is. Whatever it's in, whether it's trampoline, which actually was an Olympic test sport one year, or sprinting, or pole vaulting, whatever it is, boxing, there's always faster, higher,